So we got this 1997 Ford F-350 we're going to do front brakes on today, and I think this is a 97. Actually, I'm not even sure. This truck is in great condition. I have no idea. Anyways, oh yeah, it is a 97. 397. So I think they're all the same, 96, 97. Anyways, front brakes. The reason I'm getting the camera because these are a little bit more involved as far as we have to do rotors and pads. Or at least the fellow that owns this says that's what he wants. He says he's metal on metal. So I didn't look at it yet, but let's peel this wheel off and see what we're dealing with here. Wow, it's like, I can't even believe that this dust shield is still there and intact. So we got the key. I mean the wheel turned to the right, just for better access here. And this is a 13 for the caliper bolts. Wow, that seems kind of loose. Actually, anyways, that's that. Now the fun part is the rotor. I'm going to straighten this out. So the rotor is actually this whole piece here, from here over, and you got this hub here. We have to take this whole hub apart and separate the rotor from the hub. And I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so there's a groove inside this hub with a ring that goes and fits in the groove that's holding this hub in place, right? Usually, there it goes. There we go. See, now we got it started. Now we just kind of peel it out. There it is. It should come out of there. No problem. Looks good in there. So I'll show you a little close-up on the next moves we got to make. And I recommend taking pictures for this next part because just to get a reference on where stuff is. Let me set the camera up and show you. So this in here is a threaded, right? Part of the hub is threaded here. And you see this, I don't know if you can see or not. Let's see. Let's bang around a little bit. So there's a notch on this threaded part. Not the collar that I'm taking off, but so I just take a little punch just for a reference, right? And I'm just going to mark a little divot right there into that, right above that notch. Now getting this piece off, that's probably the only tool that, you know, that you're going to need as a specialty tool. Now I have done this in the past with a screwdriver, right, on a tab there, and then just whacking the hammer to get it loose, and then they come right off. The problem with that is, you know, when it comes back to putting it on, and again, that's why I make that little mark. So instead of knowing the torque value or anything, when I tighten everything up and get it tight, if that goes right back to the center above that notch, that's why I make the notch. Well, they didn't have it. I went to O'Reilly's. They didn't have the spanner for rental, but they do have one for sale. And this is my second time back. I bought the 2 3/8 because at the store I was like, yeah, that looks like it, but it turns out 2 5/8 is going to be the ticket here. The original, in case you're wondering, O'Reilly's aisle 3 lock nut socket, 1/2-inch drive, 2 5/8 is what they're calling it. There we go. This is one. And again, I'm going to put these directly down and stack them on top of each other, see what we got. And also I want to see, yeah, see that's where, you probably can't see that, but when we put it back on, I don't know if you can see that, that's that dimple I made, boink, that'll, you know, go to the top. So we're putting that down, just like so. I keep these orientated just the way they come out, so there's no, so this one's straight up and down, like a, kind of have to walk it back and forth a little bit. But it's straight up and down in the keyway. See, there's a little keyway that's on the center of the what I showed you before. So again, we're just going to go ahead and stack these up in reverse. So we got an inner collar. So again, I'm going to do the same thing with my marking. I'm going to use that keyway, and right above it, I'm just going to give it a tap just to. It's kind of seated right now. You know, I don't think it needs to be more tight because it wasn't tight to begin with. Alright, so next we're going to pull this hub off. There's bearings inside and outside, so be aware that they don't fall on your dirty garage floor. And I wanted to point out this this last collar that came off. You see, I don't know if you can see there or not, probably not. That's my punch mark that I made. That was where the keyway is, top dead center. And there's also a little tit here. I don't know if you can see that. That was over more like 3 o'clock. But how this goes is, so this is the second piece. You see it's got the keyway deal. And when this collar's in there, and again, this one doesn't get tightened down. It gets tightened down, but enough to where the bearings are going to be, you know, not crushed. That's why I wanted to make that mark, just to have this go back to where it was, because we don't want to over tighten and put pressure on the bearings. But that little tick mark, so when we have this here like this, that tick mark holds that in place. So if you could see that tick mark, instead of making a punch like I did, you can possibly, because this is always going to be the same, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the fifth tick. You know, I'm just trying to keep things aligned. Anyways, so let's pull this hub off, and also trying to protect everything from getting washed out. Just kind of pull this off a little bit. Just hung up on something, so I can get this bearing out. Don't put it on dirt. So you can see there's bearings on this outer side too, but there's also a dust shield, a dust seal rather, and inner bearings. So just keep in mind all that stuff's there, and try to take it off the hub as easy as possible. Let me go put this down somewhere. So I'm just going to take and wipe off this inner, where the inner seal goes on, because when it comes time to putting this back on, I don't want any crumbs or anything getting in there, because this is going to slip right over it. So we have to bang these out. I found that this is the easiest way. That's why there's no threads on the top there. I do have a press. You could try to press them out, but trying to balance this on your press and then rotating each one is going to take you longer than just giving it a whack with a hammer. Just make sure you're flush. Once your bolts fall down there, you gotta be careful about the bearings in there. See, they have little splines on them. I don't know if you can make that out, but these look actually good. So we're going to reuse these. I'm sure Ford has these for sale, but these look great. So we're going to reuse these. Again, I don't want to disturb them bearings, but we'll just keep working this like this. It's almost there. Get some on this side. It's almost there. I can see a lot of daylight. So just keep flipping her back and forth and hammering on it. Of course, we're not using a rotor. That's why we're banging on the rotor side. There we go. And not the hub side. So, as you can see, the hub is still good. And that's what was holding it together, the rust. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this rust off of there. Just to get you a better look, so where I was putting that cold chisel was in these cracks, right? And hammering up on the rotor. So there's 3 of them, right? So I just kept rotating it, and that was going on there, because you know you could probably do it here too, but again, you don't want to hurt this this hub, just because from my experience, I don't think you can get them. Maybe a junkyard, but so let me clean that up, and we'll get to the next part. All right, so if yours is all crusty, rusty, and pitted and everything, you're probably better off getting it sandblasted. You know, these hubs are in decent shape, and I'm just guessing that these aren't available. I'm not 100% sure, but this is a 1997. They might be though. They might be. So I'm just going to hit it with some fluid film just to kind of give it a barrier in there. Put this rotor back on. What we're going to do is flip it over, put it right back on the way it was. Line your holes up, best of your knowledge, or best of your sight rather. Which it looks like I'm a little off. That looks good there. And just a hair. There we go, right there. Alright, so just kind of walk it down. The holes look perfect, you know, looking straight through. Now you want to put, and again, if your splines, these look fantastic. You know, if these are all rusted too, you'd have to get new ones. But these splines are gonna go right into the new rotor. Doesn't have splines on it. These are gonna make the splines, and we're just gonna drop these in. We're not gonna hammer these in. Obviously, nobody get a hammer in there. But even if you could, you'd have to be dead below, you know, perfect. What we're going to do, since we get all these in, we're going to flip this over. I'll show you. So I'm not going to hammer them in, but I'm going to tap them in just to get them started, because when we flip this over, we don't want to you know, have these fall out. So we'll flip this guy over. So again, I'm just going to make sure we're started correctly, we're not off center. Alright, so we get all the lug nuts started, and then we're just going to drill that right down, suck it in, right? Oop. Before you do that, I'm going to take these all off again. So, I almost made a mistake. You see how the lug nut has a tapered end? Stick the tapered end down. We want the flat end pushing against this. This is the way it normally goes on, but flip them over. Let me do that right quick. This way it won't, you know, it have more surface. You know what I'm getting at. And you can potentially screw the cone up, you know, if it smushes the cone. We don't want to smush the cone because this is going into the wheel, right? And we don't want that disturbed, so flip them over just to be sure. And then we'll zap them all down. And what I do as I'm going around, just making sure that one side isn't down and the other one is still up, because you might not get it, then you have to separate it again. So you got to go around evenly, even Steven, and just make sure things are closing appropriately. It's almost closed now. This is probably not going to go down much more, but you know, just make sure they're all completely flush. There's a few of them, a couple of them that are up, so we're going to have to give them more torque. And you can probably see your thing spinning when it starts to stop. Then you know. Just making sure absolutely they're all pressed up against there. And it doesn't look like this one is all the way pressed up. You can watch this hole go by when it starts, you know, if it's going this fast, you know, that's fine, but then when it starts, you know, really laboring, you don't want to break the stud, obviously. This is only 1,000 torque. I doubt you can, but just want to be sure. But I can take these back off. Alright, so we're just going to put everything on in complete reverse. I just want to get some of this grease here. Just grease up what we wiped off. Careful as we can with this inner bearing. Inspect our one bearing, make sure there's no dirt crumbs anywhere. Get that sucker pushed in there around our. There we go. Alright, we're flush there. Get some more gloves on because our next deal is the collar, and we're going to go right back to, you know, we'll spin it down loosely just because that inner one is not tight. We'll spin it down until we get close to our mark where we where we took the little punch, and this is going to be this little tick. We counted 5 things on. You'll see. Let me go get some gloves. All right, so I left the protective coating on here. I didn't wipe it off yet because as you can see, there's some stuff getting on there, but we'll go ahead and take some brake clean afterwards with the caliper off, and we'll keep rotating it and wiping it. So we'll get it off later. Where was I? All right, so just the way I put it down on the ground, we put it back up, and again, just get it started by hand. Because you don't want, these are fine threads, but we don't want to cross thread that for sure. Trouble. Big trouble if you do. So, like I said, I'll go ahead and spin this sucker down. So we got to go maybe a quarter inch to get it back to where it was. So this is why I made that mark, right? Because the torque value on this, I don't know what it is. I'm not going to look it up. I like to put things back the way they were. So where's my wrench? I'll use this old school snap-on guy. Quarter inch, so we're maybe right there. It doesn't move. Oh boy, almost there. Maybe a smidge, we'll call that. A smidge. One smidge. Alright, so next up is our, this can only go one way with that key up on the center. And this won't fit in if your mark is off. So let me explain that real quick. So if you're the mark we made with the punch is right here, right above this keyway. I marked it right there. So if we didn't mark it and we just thought, well, this is where it is, this inner collar has that tick mark. Remember that protrusion, the tip? So you might be in between 2 tick marks, right? And we still might be a hair off, because this is going to fit into the keyway, and then it'll also fit, your tip will show through, right? But what if you're a little bit off and you're up here? That's why I marked it. So we're going to get it back to where it should be, and then from there we can go backwards or forward if we're in the center, which I don't think we are. I expect this thing to fall right in a hole here, but maybe not. Yep, right in. So we are 1, 2, 3. I thought I counted 4 before. Oh, I gotta get my glasses. We might be just a hair off. I can now see, just use a pick, stick it in an empty hole, and you'll feel, oh yeah. And then that hole, definitely in there. Definitely in there. So, we're good to go there. Now we gotta put this collar back on. And this one gets tightened down pretty damn, as you remember. But again, show you. We have a, and you probably can't see it, a tick mark. That's why I center punched it. So we know we got to go until it's tight, and then this is going to be right in the center of the keyway. I guess you can use a marker, but because of the grease and everything, we'll use a tick mark like on a timing gear, so you can't go wrong. Right. So I've got to go. I'm about 11 o'clock now. So we'll hit it a little bit with the impact, which I have to go get.
So let me explain this a little more in terms of, so the inner collar, the one with the protrusion, you need to pay attention to that where it is. And that's why we marked it before we took it off to get it to, top, let's just call it top dead center, to the top, the tick mark that we made to the top of the keyway. And then the second collar that goes on, the one with the holes in it, definitely needs to be seated into the inner collar. You cannot mess that up because nothing will tighten up and you'll bend something. So the third collar that goes on, we did make the tick mark and I put it back to where it was on the top, but that can be tightened right down because the first collar can't be tight. It'd be like a trailer bearing. You don't want to tighten it too much to start, squishing or, putting pressure on a bearing. So that's why that one's important. The second one is important as well. You got to have that tick mark into the hole. And the third one, the last collar that goes on, just tighten it right up because the two with the, the second collar that goes on that's in the keyway, can't go anywhere. And that's what's holding the first collar from spinning. So you can literally tighten the third collar right down to, just tight. But I did put it back to my tick mark. I just needed to explain that a little further, just in case there was confusion.
To where it was. Perfect. Right on the money. All right, so what's next? The hub. Let's put the hub in there and get this brakes cleaned up so we can get this truck on the road. Guys waiting on it. All right, so the orientation on this makes no difference as far as so this is the ring in which that snap ring goes into. Just want to make sure it's free of any crap. That ain't gonna matter. We'll just put it, because we have the inner grooves, the inner spline rather, right? And that's got to fit there. And these, so you might have to jockey it a little bit to get the inner and the outer to match. And doing that, you get the inner first, and this will change the outer. Just want to make sure there's nothing on there, no crumbs. So we'll get the inner started, and then we might have to, there we go, rotate a little bit. All right, so this ring should go fairly easy. It's actually easier putting it in than out, but I got to get these greasy gloves off. There we go. And then make sure she's in. Yep, she's in. I'll go ahead and just to be sure they work. Put it in lock and watch your your axle turn. When it's in free, your axle shouldn't be turning. You could probably hear it though. That's the axle. That's no axle. All right, so we're good to go. So what's next? So what I'm going to do is clean this stuff up. I'm going to douche this up pretty good and try to get this inside done too. That's normal. Right. Anyways, let's get the caliper pistons pushed in and get this caliper on there and get this truck on the road. All right, so as I'm wrapping this up, I'm thinking this guy got a quote for doing this front brake job for 650 bucks, which I think is, he should have, you know, if somebody's going to do this for 650, that's fine. And you're thinking, man, that seems like a lot of money. It's not, and I'll tell you why. So forget about what the upcharge on the parts are and whatever. I forgot what this guy said he paid for parts, but the fact of the matter is the labor involved in this, and where I'm up in the Northeast here, the labor rates are anywhere from 125 to 165 an hour, somewhere in there. But for this side here, this driver's side, I just did the passenger side, so I know exactly what to do. I know there's no question of, oh, where's this go or that go, you know what I mean? So I just did the other side. Doing this side here, I tried to race through it. Literally, I'm at an hour and 15 minutes, or hour and 16 minutes right now. Of course, I didn't put the wheel on, and I'm not even talking about cleaning up tools or anything like that. So I still got probably another 10 minutes to go. I got to put both wheels back on. So we're talking about an hour and a half just for one side. That's 3 hours that it takes to do this job, racing through it. If you were to race through it knowing exactly what to do. Now, mind you, nothing went wrong. Absolutely nothing went wrong. There's nothing wrong with the hubs, there's nothing wrong with the bearings, there's nothing wrong with the calipers. Everything was squeaky clean. I'm just talking about replacing this rotor and the pads. 3 hours minimum. I'm telling you. So, anyways, I'm just pointing that out because the fella that owns this truck got a quote for $650, and I'm thinking that's a pretty good deal. That I'm thinking about it, but I'm also thinking that garage most likely didn't know what this entailed. You know, because around here you're going to get $150 an axle for brakes, right? So, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. It's obviously easy to do once you know what you're doing, but it's still racing through it an hour and a half on one side alone. I'm just throwing it out there just because if you're willing, you know, if you're do-it-yourself and you're thinking, you know, I can do this, and you just saw what we did or what I did, and if you think you could do it, that's fine. But just know that it's gonna take up, you know, 3-4 hours of your time easily. All right, anyways, let me top this off and get this thing back on the road so this fella can pick this up. Anyways, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time, yeah.